Hello, Stitt-Heads. We're back to another episode of Talking Stitt. Sorry, my voice might be a little deeper today. I played a show last night and half my voice is gone. I'm lucky there's any left, but it's all good. And in the world of rock and roll, that's basically what we're going to be kind of getting into today, and a little bit of this and that and whatever else, conspiracies as usual. But today I'm bringing on the legendary Rik Fox, man, bass player extraordinaire. How you doing, brother?
I'm kind of doing okay given my current situation. I don't know if I fit into the legendary category. Um,
Well, your story, I mean, you've got so many stories that people, they don't even know. So that's why you're here.
yeah, my stories might be legendary, but I certainly am not.
Right on.
I'll accept icon. I can work with that.
Yeah,
Iconic.
that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of people out there who actually really deserve the legendary title. I'm nowhere in their shadow, but thank you anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so that all of that being out of the way, let's just skip right into this.
Yeah, dude. Tell us about your background, man. Tell us where you got your music start and kind of what got your launch into being who you are.
Um, well, as a kid, growing up in the '60s and whatnot, and this is pre MTV and pre. I mean, there was variety shows like Dick Clark, American Bandstand, and shows like that. Now Explosion, and I saw rock bands coming up, in that era, and of course, Blue Cheer, Steppenwolf. That was the game changer for me is when I saw Steppenwolf
Hmm.
on either on Ed Sullivan or American Bandstand, and I saw the bass player Nick St. Nicholas, and I'm like, this guy is like the epitome of cool. Buckskin fringe jacket, and he's just like grooving along there, and I'm like, I want to be like that guy. And
It's
and so I credit that as the initial button push point. And I got my first bass, I think, when I was around 13.
mhm.
And then my dad went out and bought me a little Radio Shack amp. And I'm down in the basement trying to. I have no idea what I'm doing. I never had any formal training. I couldn't tell you anything about anything on the neck, where I was, what I was doing. And I would just try to play along to the records. I had my records in my stereo in the basement, and of course, there's my grandmother going bam, 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 bam. Turn that shit down. Turn that shit down. So there was that frustrating element. Um, Moving along to I want to say the early mid '70s, I was introduced to what was a really legendary club in New York City. It was Max's Kansas City on Park Avenue South, which started as an Andy Warhol art crowd kind of a club, a restaurant club, and then Alice Cooper heard about it, Bowie heard about it, Iggy heard about it, and they all started. Well, the rocks element started to come in, and they're starting to hang out there, which kind of bristled Andy. So he kind of took his art crowd and went somewhere to another club, and Max's started to become known as a rock and roll hangout. It was like the New York version of the Rainbow.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. And so I was rubbing shoulders with like the Ramones and Tough Darts and the Brats, all the big New York rock glam bands, like that. And I was introduced to a guitar player from a band called the Martian Rock Band. And it seems looking back, like every band I've been in, I've always been replacing the previous bass player. I mean, it's almost consistently. I'm introduced to somebody who says, "Yeah, I'd like you to join my band," and I'm replacing whoever they had because apparently whoever they had didn't have the it factor. I apparently have an it factor, and I bring something to the table above and beyond.
Hmm.
So here's me, fledgling green bass player. And we'll get to the green joke in a minute. That ties into here. Uh, and so we were talking, and we had a lot in common to break the ice as far as we're big fans of the '50s and '60s sci-fi movies.
Nice. Yeah.
Day the Earth Stood Still, and the old Republic serials, the cliffhangers, Commander Cody, the Rocket Man, all that stuff. So we had all these other things that we were really both into, and he was also he did stage magic in the act as well, like that. And he showed me some of the gags, the tricks, and how they're done, which I incorporated into my character persona. And he had me come up and start to learn their songs at their loft in New York City. And I still know I wasn't sure where I was going with all of this. Elementary level bass playing. And he was very kind and patient and showed me how the songs went. I was able to pick up stuff pretty quickly. And the songs were really easy, like that, three chord stuff.
Yeah.
And so we I learned all the material, there in the loft. And he wound up after the first gig, he wound up changing drummers and got another guy who's a different, a little heavier but different. Um, but they didn't have any stage look that matched the name Martian Rock Band.
Hmm.
He had a flying V which he painted silver, and he made four extra wings. So he had the V, and he had a wing and a wing and a wing and a
Oh,
wing.
nice.
So it
Yeah.
was like the most outrageous thing you've ever seen as far as a guitar. And he had a purple jumpsuit, and he came out of this gigantic silver box with a red lightning on it,
Huh.
and it was like an oversized refrigerator. And that was the extent of the stage effects.
Hmm.
So the very first song is called "Take Me to Your Leader," oddly enough. And in the song, there's like, we'll play, 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 break. And the drummer, he's from bam, 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 and the band stop. And the bass player, he's from Mercury. And bam, 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 bam. And I'm like, okay, now I'm painted into a corner. What could I possibly be from Mercury? And I remembered that the American Southwest has lizards. And my favorite universal monster always was the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Nice. Yeah.
This is like the reptilian before reptilians
Hmm.
were a thing. You see that
Before they were
tie in there.
mainstream now. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So I figured I was going to try and incorporate somehow a saurian man, a lizard type character. And back then, I don't know if there were contacts available that made your eyes look like a lizard. And if they
Oh,
were,
no.
they were early elementary contact lenses. So I didn't get that far. What I did was I had a black Capezio spandex bodysuit. Capezio is the supplier to all the ballet companies in New York City. And I decorated it to look like Ace Frehley's costume from the Kiss Alive,
Oh,
with
cool.
the rhinestones, with the shooting stars and all of that, and like that. And so, and I made little silver epaulets on the shoulders, which was a big thing in 50s sci-fi. And anywhere my skin was showing, uh, I colored it with this green frosted highlight that came in these little tubes. So I for each show, I'd buy like 5 or 6 tubes worth of this stuff. And I put this all on wherever my skin was showing. And it was like this sparkly green color.
Yeah. Cool.
And then I covered my eyebrows with wax, and I drew them up like Spock.
Nice.
Okay. And then I colored that in with blue. My first show was red, but after that I did blue. I put a drop or two of green food coloring on my tongue, so it turned the whole inside of my mouth green. Okay, so I had essentially this. Oh, and I took a black eyeliner pencil, and wherever on my chest, it's upside down, and I drew scales, so it looked like I
Cool.
had a scaly, appearance. And that was my character. And I had the silver platform boots with these rollerball studs in them, and so I upped the game like that. And when the band leader saw that, he's, oh, now I got to up my game. And he changed to a black jumpsuit. He had white on his face, and he had these black weird designs drawn on his. And it was like whatever. It was like a friendly competitive thing. He would do this, I would do this, he'd do this, I do this, he do this.
But that's a good thing. It makes everybody
Yeah,
better. Yeah.
exactly. And I have little silver streaking tips in the hair, look kind of little like Bowie kind
Yeah.
of thing. And then the eyes kind of looked Egyptian like that. They always tie in Egyptian and ancient astronauts like that. And I have pictures if you want. I can send you to show you what they look like.
That's cool.
And
Yeah.
then of course Kiss being in '75, Kiss being a huge influence on me, having dated one of Peter Chris's sisters, and being privy to watching Kiss form before they were Kiss. Okay, before Ace was in the band. So I'm getting early pre-Kiss right in front of me, and
Is
I'm
that like
learning.
Wicked Lester? Is that
Well,
era?
after Wicked Lester,
Okay.
but this is before Ace was in the band.
Okay.
So it's
Gotcha.
just Gene, Paul, and Peter. And Peter used to bring us to watch, the rehearsals and get some feedback from us
Better than
kids.
Peter, Paul, and Mary. No.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't think of a funny comeback for that at the moment. um, Well, anyway, so that was my influence of Kiss through my. It was like a cross between Gene and Ace, because with the green food coloring, Gene used to puke up the blood, the fake blood. So I would have a little secret on the side, a little thing of beer, and I just enough in my mouth to make the foam,
Oh,
and it
gotcha.
mixed with the green food coloring. So I'm doing the whole Gene kind of, and I go up to the front, and this
Nice.
green foam, it looked like rabies, like sci-fi rabies coming out of my, and the shock value was absolutely worth every penny. Just all the people in the front were like, "Oh my god, he's got this green shit coming out of his mouth." It was great. It was a fun thing, and Sebastian, the guitar player, was able to, as I said, he did stage magic around 42nd Street, Broadway, all the theaters, and magicians had needed places to buy their supplies from for their gags for their act, and he showed me a trick called Dragon's Breath, which was a powder. It was inert. You could pour it on the table and put a match on it, and it won't burn.
Hmm,
It works like flour. It doesn't burn until it's aerated and sprayed out in the open
that's
like that. You can
cool.
do that. Flour can be explosive. You can. Denzel Washington did that in one of his films, and it's a little bottle. I'm revealing a stage secret. Forgive me, magicians. I'm not
Uh-oh.
breaking the code. It's a little. It looks like a little nasal spray bottle, and has a little tube, and you can secret it, some confederate it somewhere on your body, and when you squeeze the powder, once it's aerated, then it's ignitable. Okay, there's your accelerant like that. And so he had that on the headstock of his guitar, and he would shoot fire like a
Cool.
flamethrower out the head. This is way before Motley Crue. Okay,
Yeah.
Nicky actually had a real flamethrower on his, but so he would shoot fire out of the headstock. And I was like, wow, I wish I could do that somehow. Like we both shoot fire. And another of my comic book heroes being Spider-Man.
Nice.
We'll remember how he used to shoot the webs.
Hmm.
He pressed it the palm of his hand and it would shoot out through the wrist. So here's me trying to figure out how to do this. And I had silver lame cocktail gloves that I would wear. And I had it underneath. I would put it under the inside the glove and run a cocktail straw extension, which fit over the nib of this thing perfectly. And I ran it up my finger and a little hole there, and the straw would stick out. Now, I'm not going to stand it with a lighter, cigarette lighter, like real amateur, and light it like that. So I had candles on my SVT, like Gene, and there's another thing called flash paper. It looks like onion skin. It comes a
Okay.
little pad. It comes a little pad,
I
and
think I know
that's
what
what
you're talking about. I think I've heard of that.
you'd see your magicians go like this with their hand, and it looks like fire would come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it would float in the air and just dissolve. That's what I used as my other accelerant. So I would light the flash paper off the candle and use the momentum as I came around, as it's burning in my hand, and then I'd pick my hand up like this and then squeeze,
Hmm.
and the fire would shoot out of my finger. And
That's
again,
crazy.
the audience was like, "Wow, check this out!" So we were a sci-fi, heavy metal, pseudo punk. We were a spunk band.
Funk. Yeah.
Spunk, yeah. And so we were wowing the crowds at Max's, to bring that back to the data point. And so I became, in essence, a veteran of the New York 70s New York City rock scene.
Hmm.
And there were other bands that used different types of stage effects and magic and stuff there. But that's what we did. And so we played Max's, we played CBGB's. We played CBGB's years before ACDC did.
Hmm.
I think they were in 77. We played there in 75 and 76.
So
And
when
so I
did you
was
cross paths with Blackie? Like where
that
how did that
that
happen?
comes later, much later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, because we're talking 75, 76.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just out of high school. I graduated in 74.
Okay, so you made your big start for the time like in New York, and then did you eventually go to like
Yeah.
LA scene and take it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was already a veteran of the New York City rock scene like that. And I was friends with many of the bands that were there. Like I said earlier, the Ramones and Tough Darts and and
That's
and
cool.
uh,
I would
Robert
have loved to hang out with the
Gordon.
Ramones.
Yeah, all of the fledgling bands that came up out of New York, I was rubbing shoulders with. Everybody went to Max's
Hmm.
like that. Um, so that brings 75, 76, 77. After that, 76, I got I saw a picture of a glam band in Rock Scene magazine from New Jersey called Virgin. Okay, and this predates the other Virgin that Bill Aucoin managed years later from California. They didn't even know about us. And so I'm working in a store in New York City, in the Village, Manhattan, a few doors down from Electric Lady Studios. And this guy and his girlfriend come walking in, And like, oh, hey, you look like a rock and roll guy. Well, and he looked rock and roll, like that. And what do you do? I said, I'm a bass player. He says, oh, you know what? I think we're looking for a bass player. I said, what's the name of your band? He goes, Virgin. I said, oh, I seen a picture of you guys on the boardwalk in Jersey. He goes, that's us. And he said, yeah, we'd like to replace the guy we have. I'm like, oh, okay. So they set up an audition in Manhattan, and I go up there and trying to dabble on Alice Cooper, Kiss. It was all cover band stuff back then, like Twisted Sister. And there was another band, the big Jersey version of Twisted. Once Twisted Sister moved to Long Island, the other Jersey version of a band like them was called Harlow,
Okay.
and they were a big, huge glam band. We were kind of like Harlow Jr. We both
Gotcha.
had an Alice Cooper set, and our singer Ian Chris came out with a 9-foot boa wrapped around his neck and his
Sweet.
shoulders.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did an Alice Cooper show and all of that. So unknown to me, the singer walks in because I hadn't met him yet, and he's in the bathroom and he's putting on eyeliner in the mirror, and I'm like, this guy's putting on makeup. I'm like, how you doing? Oh, I'm good. Hey, we're trying out some guy. Oh, okay. I walk in the room and it's him, and he's there. So we're going through the songs, and he's doing something that I never experienced before. Like Gene would come up to Ace and like ride his leg,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like Ian was in my space doing stuff with me, like while I'm playing. I'm like, I never is this guy straight or
Right. Trying to
you
bump
know
uglies. What are we doing here? Yeah.
I never experienced somebody in my space rocking with me
Hmm.
like that, and that's what he did. He was like a singer. I've never seen any singers do that and get up with the guitar player and do stuff and with the other band members.
My singer's
uh,
Thad. Me and him, we have that same kind of camaraderie on stage.
right,
Like, and he'll play rhythm guitar on a few songs here and there. So we'll kind of like lean, back to back and shit. And it's like,
exactly,
but I know what you're saying. If
yeah,
you're not used to that, you're kind of like, hey, what are you
yeah.
doing, man?
So we're sharing the energy kind of thing.
Hmm.
And he liked me. He says I you got the gig, you're in the band.
Nice.
Guitar player didn't like me. He goes, this guy doesn't know his ass from his elbow. He goes, then you know what? Do whatever it takes. Teach him. Work with him. I want this guy in the band. So Ian was the second person to give me a big break. Sebastian was in Martian Rock Band, took a leap of faith, and it paid off. Now here's my second band. I'm replacing a bass player because I bring something to the table they wanted that they didn't have. I guess it was missing. It's probably the only way I can describe it. So then I joined Virgin, and they replaced the drummer eventually. And then I brought in a drummer friend of mine who used to hang out at Max's, Stan Bissell. And then so now we were like changing members, and we went from Virgin to Lust for about 2 weeks, and then I came up with the name Sin. So the Sin, now I coined the new name for our band. We were Sin, and we were playing the Jersey club circuit, a lot of the same places that Twisted Sister played and Harlow and all of that, up until about 78. And then Ian got an offer to play drums for another bigger band that made more money. So it was nothing personal. It was purely a business move. And I was, of course, devastated, because I mean, we all sweated and in the mud, the blood on stage for so many years. And so, and I'm still in touch with Ian to this day. We're dear friends and all of that. But it was a business move, and I got that. So I was kind of like floating around between bands. And there was a club in New York City just up the street from CBGB's called the Great Gildersleeve, which was like a mid-range. It was huge. This facility was massively huge, and bands who had just gotten signed, who were just now making the transition from a small stage to a little bit bigger stage, were playing there. Lots of recording acts would come through there, and I wound up doing concert lighting for a lot of these bands. Follow Spot and the House Lights and all that. And a lot of bands came through, and I worked with tons of bands. And then I started dating this girl from Jersey. We were going to some clubs, and somehow my name got picked up or mentioned by another club act called the E. Walker Band. And essentially, again, playing a lot of the same venues that Twisted Sister and bands like them had played all over the Jersey circuit. They said, we heard about you. You got a good name and you got a good look. We'd like you to replace our bass player. That's three.
Pattern here.
Definitely to that. Now we're beyond two. We're in the pattern.
Hmm.
And I went to see them on a Sunday night at Orangeburg Pub in Orangeburg, New York, just over the Jersey state line. And I'm like, this bass player looks good. He's got a good black hair. He's got a good look. I don't know why they're getting rid of him. So they said, here's a list of songs. It was about 40 songs, maybe. Said, you're on Wednesday, first show. I'm like, I got from Sunday to Wednesday to learn all these. Holy crap.
And this
And it's
isn't like now where you can just click on YouTube and hammer down a
no,
song 10
no.
times in a row. Like, yeah,
It's either you got the album or the cassette,
yeah.
and
And
that's
then on
it.
top of that, half the recordings back in those days were either sped up, slowed down, slightly tuned, slightly differently. So trying to
Yeah,
find out what, if your guitar is even in tune, if you even have, I mean, some people didn't even have guitar tuners and shit most of the time too back then.
yeah,
People forget. So
yeah.
learning
And it
songs was
was
a lot harder back then.
this was yeah. You're really flying by the seat of your pants. It was we did everything from Joe Jackson to Judas Priest,
Nice.
The Doors, Led Zeppelin, the Who. Anything that people are drinking in 50-cent shots at early happy hour, and that's you're a live jukebox. You're there to help people, the club, the bar make money while they're drinking, and you played until 4 in the morning. You started later, like 10, 11, and you played till whatever it was 4 in the morning. We did like 4 sets a night, and I was like in the process of like also learning while I'm playing.
Yeah.
Uh, but and we did some new wave stuff, which I hated, but that's what we had. I had to learn like that, and all the gear was on the truck. It's like being on tour without leaving Jersey.
Yeah.
Kind of
The
like
full
that.
production kind of, yeah.
We had the stage, we had the road crew, stage manager, lighting guy, sound guy, all of that, and so I did that 6 nights a week. I had Monday. Monday was my day off, and then eventually they wanted to start bringing originals into the set. So the guitar player is writing originals with the keyboard player. Now my Mondays, I got to take a train down to South Jersey and learn these songs. And then we went into the recording studio, and it was bang, 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 bang. One song, next, next, next. I'm like, I don't even know all these songs completely yet. Don't worry about it. Just play whatever you can play. I'm like, this is who runs a band like this?
Right.
And so we got seen by production people from Canada, from Toronto, and they offered us to come up and play in Toronto and tour up there under a different name. We wanted the name. We're known in Jersey as the E. Walker Band. I was number 7 out of 8 bass players in this band. That gives you an idea of their pattern.
Right.
We changed the name to Spitfire while we were in Canada, and we were booked by a company called The Agency, and they handled every huge act in Canada: Rush, Mahogany Rush, Brian Adams, Headpins, whoever you could think of that was Canadian. They handled. They booked all
Triumph.
these bands. So they booked us. We played 3 nights in 5 different clubs. So we were there for about 2 weeks, and we played all the big famous clubs in Toronto. And we came back. These band members, a lot of 420 guys. I don't do that, so I wasn't completely accepted into the brotherhood.
I
I was
gotcha.
I was the outsider guy, and that and other things that they were antics that they were pulling on me. Let's just what, this isn't working. And I was with the band for about a year and a half, and I left. Out of that, I met another guitar player, the late Dave Ferrara, who was one of the guest guitar players on Mike Varney's up and coming U.S. Metal series. He had a whole series of these. He's showcasing all the hot new Pistolero
Mm-hmm.
guitar players.
Mm-hmm.
David was one of the guitar players on the U.S. Metal series. So we put a band together called Aggressor, and we were doing a lot of the same stuff that we did at E. Walker, but we leaned heavier, like Iron Maiden,
Yeah.
Van Halen, Rush, Black Sabbath. We did
Nice.
all the heavy stuff like that, and we did that for about maybe almost not about a year, 6 months, a year, and we're playing some of the same clubs that we did with E. Walker, so we were pulling some of their crowd, which they weren't pleased about, but that's
Hey, shit
competition.
happens. That's business.
That's everywhere. And in my day, one of my 2 day jobs, I was working again in the Village at another shop on 8th Street, right up in the shadow of Electric Lady Studios. This bunch of kids walk in, and I'm all rocked out. I always looked rocked out,
Mhm.
and they're like, "Oh, who are you? You look like a rock star." And I said, "Well, I'm Rik Fox, a bass player." Oh, really? Well, we know a band, and we're coming. We're here from California. We came to watch Twisted Sister play at some festival, right? And there was some other bands like that. And we got to talking about Twisted Sister. And I said, "Oh, those guys are friends of mine." They're like, "Oh, really?" You really know Twisted Sister? I said, yeah, Mark Mendoza is like my big brother.
Yeah.
When he got out of the Dictators and joined Twisted, he called me up all the time, say, hey, I'm playing, come and see me play. So I was Mark's buddy.
You still talk
So
to those guys?
I haven't talked to Mark in a long time. I saw Eddie in 2023 at the Rockin' Pod event in Nashville.
Cool.
So we took some pictures like that, and occasionally I'll drop a note to JJ on the internet on Facebook. I got his book, A Twisted Business.
Mm.
Incredible book. It talks of the rise of Twisted Sister from early day like that. And so, but D and I just never got along. The guy's hated my guts. He's got a personal axe up his butt about me, and he's just never dropped it.
I've heard that
like that.
about him
So
before with people, but yeah, dude,
yeah,
I was just curious. But you can go back to like you were saying. So
and it doesn't matter who I played with or made a mark in the world. He still says I'm a poser. So whatever, screw him anyway. Anyway, so these and they said they were big fans of Kiss, and I said, well, I told them the story about dating Peter's sister, and I knew Kiss and blah blah. And these guys were like, oh my god, do you have a way to get in contact with you? You'd be perfect for this band back in California. And I'm like, California? When you audition for a band, it's usually within reasonable driving distance, not across the country.
right.
This was the huge leap of faith. And I gave him a phone number, and I had a picture in my bag of me from in my stage gear from either E. Walker or something like that. It's just something, because they asked me, "Do you have something we can show this guy?" And that was it. So a few weeks go by, and I got a call. It's just Blackie Lawless. Bingo. He's like, "Hey, I got the kids. These guys. They used to come watch him rehearse and whatever gigs. Blackie played the Starwood scene."
Mm-hmm.
In LA and the whiskey and all of that. He had Killer. It was in Killer Kane with Arthur, because he did the very last two shows with the New York Dolls right before they broke up. So that was his connection to Arthur.
Oh wow.
And then they stayed in LA and nested there to try and make something.
We just lost David Johansen or whatever within the last year or so. New York Dolls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But yeah,
Blackie had this band called Sister, and then he had Circus. And he was trying to pseudo kiss Alice Cooper type imagery like that, heavy black eyeliner and scary and all that. And so he's on the phone with me, and he's like, I'm hearing good things, and like, I said, I don't have anything to send you. I play in a cover band, so we don't. It's not like a demo tape of cover songs.
Mm-hmm.
I have newspaper ads from the Aquarian showing me. He said, oh, that's okay. You can send me those if you want. I said, I don't know anything about you. So he sent me a demo tape of the Sister Circus stuff. These guys were like incredibly heavy, like wow, holy crap, heavy.
Yeah,
and so I heard some of the songs, and we're on the phone every once in a while, and he made an arrangement to fly me to LA. Long story short, too late. I don't know where he got the money from. I don't remember because he was broke, but he flew me to LA. That's when I met Randy Piper and Tony Richards, the other guys in the band, and they took my gear to Randy's studio in Anaheim, and I stayed at Blackie's rental cottage, actually from February 4th till the end of May, like May 30th. And so he took me out, to get through the jet lag. He introduced me to the Troubadour, and that's where I met Kevin DeBro. David Lee Roth was hanging out there. Some of the guys from Motley Crue were hanging out there. And we were there for about an hour or so. And he goes, well, let's go up to the Rainbow. So he takes me up to the Rainbow. And we sit down at a table. I walk in. Punky Meadows from Angels right there. Punky's like, hey, what are you doing? We met years before when Angel would come through New York. We became friends. I said, I'm trying out for Blackie's band. He goes, all right, good luck with that. And standing next to him was Bruce Kulick.
Awesome.
Kiss. And Michael Diamond, the bass player of Legs Diamond. So another very attractive man next to Punky. It's like, anyway, Blackie and I go sit down. Who comes sauntering in? Hey, man, the party's here. David Lee Roth comes and sits down at our table. It's a pinch me moment.
Yeah.
Is this really happening? And it's like me, Blackie, and David Lee Roth. And he's got that, David Lee Roth grin.
That shit-eating grin, yeah.
Look at all the people here tonight, man. That persona goes way back. Anyway, and I had seen Van Halen at the Palladium in New York City in '78.
Mm.
I worked my way through the backstage area. I managed to grab David Lee Roth's towel, but I think I still have. But because I was at the Palladium all the time, I was getting in and seeing all the shows there. And so we finally get to go to rehearsal, and I sit there and I watch Blackie and Randy and Tony go through the songs. It's only like 5 songs. Just like the tape, it sounded pretty easy like that. So he says, "All right, come on up." And I plugged in and I played and I picked up the stuff relatively quickly. Like I said, it wasn't difficult material like that. And I'm playing melodic. I'm a melodic bass player, and I do walks and things
That
like that.
that's
And
how I
Black
am
is
as a
like,
bass player. Yeah.
can you keep it a little simpler? Don't do so many walks. I'm like, it's only 3 chords. How much simpler can I be? And so we went through that for a couple hours, and then they were like, I don't know, it's like right there, but so we took a day off and we did another rehearsal audition the day after the next, and that was I got it. He goes, you know what, you got the gig. So, and we were still called Sister at that point. There wasn't WASP yet. So
Were any of the
probably
songs, sorry to cut you off, were any of the songs, those first couple songs you were talking about, were any of those like Wasp songs on the
oh yeah,
actual?
yeah. We did On Your Knees,
Nice.
Hellion, BAD, Sleeping in the Fire, and School Days.
Oh, dude, School Days, hell yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Randy was the singer on School Days.
Oh, no kidding. That's
He
fucking
did. He
cool.
sounded like Blackie.
Yeah.
All of this. Well, we eventually went up doing a demo, and I was starting to write, and I co-wrote on the 6th song, Master of Disaster, which never really went anywhere. But the fans have said, Master of Disaster sounds a little bit like Wild Child. The verses are almost the same, and the
Mm.
pattern of the lyrics are almost the same. So maybe Blackie never throws out a good idea, so he probably took it and so I'm speculating he
Took some
Frankensteined it
liberties.
into another song. Yeah. But so yeah, we did a demo, live demo, so there's no overdubs on it. It's just hit play and record,
Yeah,
put
four
on the
dudes in the
guitar.
room hitting all at the same time, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like that. And so there's that. And then about a month or so into the band, Blackie had told me, this is a new band. We need a new name, a new image. He goes, I don't know what I'm going to do yet with all of this. I'm just, I don't know. So I got a phone call from a friend in New York. I take the phone on the extension outside because there's no cell phones yet. And I'm on the phone and I'm kicking leaves over on the ground, just aimlessly. He's in the house like this, watching the Yankees game on TV. He's a big baseball fan. And as I kicked over a leaf, there was a yellow jacket or hornet on the ground. And I quick stepped on it, but I didn't kill it. It was still alive, and the singer was squirming.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, oh, it's curled up. Like, went back in the house and I said, you remember the old Green Hornet TV series that ran opposite Batman? So remember the Hornet like that, and with the optic,
Uh-huh.
UCL. I said, I got an idea for a band name. And he goes, what? And I said, Wasp. I said, I just stepped on looked like a wasp outside. And he goes, it's a good idea. He goes, keep thinking like that. And he went back to watching the game. The next night, we were at rehearsal and we were done. He gathers me and Tony and Randy, and he says, we got a new name for the band. And Randy goes, well, what is it? Because I was thinking Hellion, because that's what they call bad kids in Texas. So Randy's from Texas. I said, I think there already is a band in LA called Hellion. And Tony goes, well, what's the band name? And Black goes, Wasp. And Tony goes, Wasp? Who names a band after a bug? And I immediately went, the Beatles?
The Beatles,
Scorpions?
he's Scorpions.
And that was it. Black goes, that's the new name of the band. So technically, we are now all 4 co-founders of a new band called Wasp. And that's how, honestly, it was born in that moment. Of course, from that day on, people have asked Blackie, where did the name come from? I don't know. What's WASP stand for? We ain't sure,
Yeah.
pal. Eventually it came to me, we're all side players.
Oh shit. Yeah. Back in the, the Live in the Raw, when he's talking about the freaking, Jackie Collins novel, We Are Sexual Perverts. It's
Yeah.
like, a lot of people, same with Kiss, Knights in Satan's Service and whatever. It's like some of these bands, they were just a short name, and then people just use their imagination and turn it into an acronym, you
Yeah.
know.
As Chris Holmes tells it, they were playing after. All right, so well, and Blackie called up Don Atkins, who was a photographer on the scene. He says, "I got a new band. Let's do a photo session." So we went to Don's parents' house in Whittier, I think it was, and we did a photo session. And so now, I mean, if he says Blackie was happy, he's like, "Yeah, we got a bass player. Let's do a photo session."
So
So we
was
did the photo.
Blackie playing rhythm at this point or just
Yeah,
singing?
yeah. He
Oh,
had a
okay.
he had a guitar shaped like an iron cross, like
Oh, no
a
shit.
knight's cross. That was
Yeah.
his guitar. You know, I was playing an Ibanez, a '77 Ibanez Destroyer Explorer
Ooh, kick
body
ass.
bass. Yeah. And so we did the demo, we did the photo session, we got a new band name, and by the end of May, he's for some reason he just stopped talking to me, and I'm like, have I overstayed my welcome? I don't know. He's not talking to me. He's just being really distant. And finally, he says, "We got to talk." I never heard that phrase before. We sat down. He goes, "It's just not working out. Tony's not happy. Randy's not happy. He's just you're out of the band, and you are to surrender all your copies of the band photos." Whoa,
Whoa.
really? I said, "Why?" He goes, "It's my band and my pictures. I pay for it." Oh, okay. So now he wants to erase everything about the fact of me being involved with this band. And so I had to give him the pictures. And when he went out of the house, I took the negatives up to Sunset Boulevard. I printed more pictures. And when I came back to the house, I stashed some on the side before I went in the house. He was already home. He found out I took the negatives. He was furious, yelling at
Oh.
me and shit like a redheaded stepchild. And so I gave him the negatives. I gave him a few of the pictures. He goes, "Oh, and everything." I said, "That's it." He goes, "It better be." I'm like, "Oh, really,
That's
Dad? It
crazy.
better be." Luckily, I saved those pictures because those are what are now and have been on the internet for years that he does not like having to explain.
Yeah.
So his best explanation that he could bring to the table was, "Oh, we just did a photo session just to see what the band looked like." Really? That's your best shot? Just to see what the band look. Let's book a photo session just to see what the band looks like.
Spend time and
Okay.
money just to see. Yeah, right.
Exactly. Yeah,
We can
all of
take our
that.
own damn picture for one or two shots, you know.
Yeah, really. Um, and so he said, "You're out of the band." Just like that. And like previously he told me he was real happy. The demo was great. Everything is working out. Now it's come to find out. Randy told me years later, or not years later, actually, was after that the second Wasp show first Wasp show at the Troubadour with Chris Holmes.
Hmm.
Randy said Blackie kicked you out of the band because he was trying to go out with the same girls that you were bringing back to the house. And I didn't do this all the time. I think I brought a date back to the house once or twice,
Uh-huh.
but one of them was a girl that he tried to pick up earlier in the evening out at the clubs. And I didn't know this until after the fact. But I asked her, I
Mm.
said, "Did Blackie try to bring you to this house?" She goes, "Yeah, I turned him down." Oh, okay. So he tried to pick this girl up, and she said no. And she goes, I want to, I'll come back with you. And I bring her back to the house, and he sees the girl I told him no earlier in the evening. Well, that's considered taboo. That's a huge blow to the guy's ego.
Hmm.
This is what Randy validated to me. He says, Blackie got pissed off that you were bringing these dates back to the house that he wanted to have time with, and they told him no. I'm like,
That
so
was that.
this is why you kick out your new band member because you're pissed off that he brought a girl back to the house that you wanted.
Yeah.
Welcome to L.A.
Welcome to the rock and roll
Welcome,
world, brother.
welcome
Yeah.
to L.A. And I'm like, holy crap! And I found out from this girl, as I said, after the fact, because she wound up being a girl whose life I saved. And she eventually wound up being on the cover of the Poison album, Open Up and Say Ah.
No shit. That oh
That's
wow.
that the girl in red, the red demon girl.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
that was my friend Bambi, who
That's
I
the that's crazy that that had to be the uncensored version, you know, and then
yeah,
they put it where it was like the old movies with the, you know, the black header and bottom. It's where you just saw basically just kind of part of the face and tongue, but
yeah,
you're like,
yeah,
it's funny as hell what was deemed like so offensive during the
yeah.
Tipper Gore era and shit.
And the night that I was seeing Steeler for the first time at the Roxy, I was there with Eric Carr. And Eric goes, "You know Bambi, right?" And I said, "Yeah." Because you introduced me to her. I was, yeah. And I set him up with her. I mean, she dated a lot of guys in the rock business
Yeah.
at the rock scene at the time. So I set them up, and Eric and her and Bambi became kind of an item for a little bit. I just happened to be one of these Forrest Gump guys that was in the right key
Dude,
places
yes. Yeah.
at right times.
That's a great way to put it. Forrest
And
Gump.
I
Yeah.
and I, and I finally needed validation from Eric. I said, "You remember the night we first met behind the Palladium? Eric was rehearsing with Kiss in 1980 to make his new debut
Hmm.
with Kiss, and his character was a hawk. So far, it's like Big Bird."
Yeah.
And so they really weren't happy with that. And my friend, as I walked up, he's sitting on the hood of a car talking to my friend Randy. And Randy goes, "Oh, Eric, this is my friend Rik Fox." And I went to shake his. He goes, "Rik Fox, Fox, huh?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "What a cool name." 2 nights later, Kiss made their debut. What was Eric's character?
The
A
Fox.
fox.
Yes. Yes.
So while he and I are hanging out at the Roxy watching Steeler, I said, "I really got to know. Did you get your persona character from my name when Randy introduced us?" And he just looked at me and he smiled. He goes, and unfortunately, sadly, he's not here today
No.
to validate that. But he finally admitted to me he got his character Fox from my last name. And
Awesome.
and I've told the story in a couple of Kiss places, and they were like, "Wow, I never knew that." Well, a lot of people don't know a lot of stuff about my stories.
Yeah.
But
That's why I
anyway,
wanted to have you on because you got like this. I mean, I think you nailed it on your analogy of like the Forrest Gump because it's like you watch Forrest Gump. How can one man be in so many situations? But man, like times were different. Like the scenes, the LA scene, the New York scene, shit was like
yeah,
hustling and bustling. And so,
yeah,
I mean, yeah, you could be bumping elbows with everybody and being in the right conversations, the right opportunities, and it's
yeah,
just a matter of just being there. Like you just
yeah,
had to be
yeah,
there, and it sounds like yeah, it worked out. So
yeah.
with Steeler, that's where Ingve comes in, right?
Yeah, one sec.
Okay,
So
yeah,
I just want to dial back to Chris Holmes. Uh, Now on the internet is validation. Randy Piper did one of several interviews with Full and Blue Music, and the host asked him, "So was Rick in the band?" And he said, "Yeah, we played. It just didn't work out. I don't remember why." He goes, "But did Rick come up with the name Wasp?" And he goes, "Oh, definitely." He goes, I'll give him that. He did take the name. He did come up with the name. He loosely tried to remember the story. He goes, "I think a wasp stung him on the hand or something." He goes, "But yeah," he goes, and then he goes, "Blackie put the dots in it and stole it from him
mm-hmm.
like that," and he laughed. And Chris Holmes has said, in having an interview when he joined the band uh, after I was out, Blackie brought in Don Costa for one or two shows. And I had apparently I don't remember this. I called one of the clubs they played at and threatened to sue because of the name. And Chris Holmes said, "Yeah, Rik Fox called the club. He was all pissed off, and he goes, Blackie put the dots in it, so he couldn't sue us."
Ah,
So that's kind of Chris Holmes's version of where the dots came from in WASP.
gotcha.
And he said, "So tell me about some of the people you worked with. Let's start with Rik Fox." He goes, "Oh, I didn't work with Rick." He goes, "Rick was out of the band when I joined." So again, Chris validates like that. And he goes, "Blackie, all Blackie did was talk like incredible shit about Rick." He says
Uh,
all this negative stuff about Rick. And he goes, "I personally, I don't have anything against him. I understand the guy's point of view. I'd probably be pissed off too. And to this day, Chris and I are very good friends.
that's cool.
Chris and his wife Catherine are say I want to say one of the when my wife passed away in 2022, him and his wife called me from France to offer condolences. I mean, that was an incredible experience to have. I mean, I never expected
That's
it, but
awesome.
but Chris is, as we know, is a cancer survivor as well. He had cancer in the throat, and so him and Catherine called to offer their condolences. And he said, "Can you? Oh, if you feel okay talking about her cancer story?" And I said, "Yeah." And we compared cancer stories and stuff like that. And then we got to talking about Wasp, and he, gave me all the same thing we hear and read about how Blackie screwed him over. And I told him stuff of what Blackie did with me before he was in the band. And he goes, "Oh, I didn't know that."
Mm.
So we're both comparing notes about our experiences with dealing with Blackie and with Wasp like
You guys
that.
have like yeah trauma bonding between being around Blackie, kind of, you
That's
know.
that's a good term. Yeah, trauma bonding, exactly like that. And then and that was that. So that's kind of like the Wasp thing. I had been floating around. I didn't know anybody really in LA. I was still new. There's no internet. You can't prove who you've been with,
Hmm.
like that. So the place I was living at, we would hold rock and roll barbecues out on the sidewalk in front of the apartment.
That's cool.
And I was trying to network.
Yeah,
It was that word wasn't around yet, so we would invite rockers from other bands and stuff to come in, and we'd have a barbecue. And that's how I met Stephen Pearcy and Robin Crosby, guys in Rat. And they invited me to come audition for them because Rat was notorious for having a revolving door of musicians.
hmm,
Every other gig. I saw them with Jakey Lee. I saw them with Mark Tureen. I saw them with oh my god, they had a different bass player. They had a different drummer. Then Bobby Blotzer joined, and then Warren DeMartini. So they were, it's like you're trying out a guy and it didn't work, and so the next gig they have another guy and try it out
yeah.
and it didn't work.
They just kept the ball rolling, but they just
Exactly.
put a different person in there. Yeah.
So they invited me, and I auditioned for Rat, and I still have the cassette. It's all a lot of their songs, but with no vocals on it. It's just all instrumental versions of the
Cool.
songs. And Blotzer and I didn't get along. He was like, "Yeah, you got to play bass with your fingers, man. I got to feel it. I got to feel out of those fingers on that bass." He goes, "Because I played with a pick at the time." I said, "I don't tell you what kind of drumsticks to use. Don't tell me how to play bass."
Right. Good job. Yeah. Good point.
And he didn't like that. And I had silver star prisms on my fret markers. He goes, "Man, those disco stars gotta go." Okay, so he didn't take me seriously. Then again, who does?
Mm.
Uh, I had put an ad in Music Connection magazine. Ron Keel saw it. We're working our way up. We're working our
Hmm.
way. You see, what happened was he had did a showcase. Steele did a showcase for every major label in LA, and all of them turned him down. The way Ron says it's like I can't compete with Rat and Motley Crue, Black and Blue with the guys I have. Something's I need that next step. And so he sacked the whole band. And with that went the truck, the lights, all the gear, everything, because the guitar player's father owned everything. So it was just Ron. And he called me and we talked. And so I went over to what was called the Steeler Mansion, which, as a lot of people know, was three gutted storefronts with roaches everywhere. It was anything but a mansion is an inside joke.
Yeah.
It was Spartan. It was like no furniture. They slept on milk crates, like that. And so I met with Ron, and we shared our mutual love of Kiss. I told him my Kiss story like that, and he says, "All right, well," he goes, "people have mentioned your name. I see you've got a look, like that." And I got to up the band that next level. So here's a tape. Learn these songs. No promises. I said, fair enough. I went back to the apartment that I was staying at. I learned the songs. I said, all right, I'm ready. And I went back to where this place was. It was like in almost South Central LA. It was like right on the border almost of South Central LA. It was a completely dark neighborhood, if you understand my meaning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, like that. And we were right around the corner from the original location of Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles.
Uh-huh.
Now
Yeah.
you know what kind of neighborhood we lived in.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I just one on one with Ron. He sat on the drum riser with his guitar. I sat there and we went through the songs, went through the songs, went through the songs. He goes, "All right, let's go to the next level." The drummer Mark Edwards was in Texas visiting family. He says when Mark comes in, he's going to get his drum. Mark came back. He said, "We got a bass player. Let's try this guy out." Mark got his kit out of storage, set up, and now we're playing three piece, kind of like Kiss,
Mhm.
without Frehley, you
Mhm.
know. And we started to lock in. Rehearsals were going really well. Ron got back in touch with Mike Varney. There's Mike Varney coming up the second time, uh, and said, we need the guitar player from hell. How prophetic that would be.
Yes. I know where this
And
is going.
so the arrangements were made to fly Malmsteen from Sweden to LA to try out for us.
Great Swedish
And
meatball. No, I'm sorry.
yeah,
I
well,
just had to throw that in.
I have to refrain from saying anything that's not positive because
I understand. Yeah.
we have a Steeler documentary coming out,
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
and there's rumor he may be in it, which is which is great.
That's cool, actually. Yeah.
So you understand the politics.
There's just certain people that seem like they've stepped over a lot of people, and it's like I'll leave it at that. Like I'm with you,
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's a good choice. So here I am now replacing a bass player again.
Hmm.
There's the pattern. And Mom C came in. We picked him up at the airport, and then when he finally got back to, he was in culture shock. He wasn't expecting a roach plate filled storefronts.
He
Like,
thinks America's going to be this fantastic
how
empire,
do
and
you
he's like,
guys live? That's called paying dues.
yeah,
Like that. And incidentally, this was the same place that when Steeler moved out, Poison moved into. So
okay,
they took over where we used to live after we moved out,
I got the
which is
sloppy
how
seconds.
I became friends with them afterwards because Bobby Dahl had my old room. And
No
he goes,
kidding. Yeah,
it was the nicest room in the place. I said, because I decorated it like that.
yeah.
But anyway, so right away, Ron and Ingve were not, not
Hmm.
hitting it off music wise. And Ingve made some derogatory comments about the material, which didn't sit right with Ron. Ron did what I call the quickest slow burn you ever saw. And in comedy and in TV and movies, the slow burn is watching somebody's face turn red when they're angry and they can't say anything because they're like,
Yeah.
like you see it a lot in the Little Rascals,
Uh-huh.
like that. The adults would get a slow burn. And so we started to audition other guitar players while Ingve was living with us there. And
Awkward.
and oddly enough, we never auditioned Mitch Perry. I don't know why, because Mitch and Mark were friends. But after 4 or 5 guitar players, it wasn't. Ingve goes, all right, I'll play the game. Let's do this. And we sat down to work, and we got so tight you couldn't slip a piece of paper in between us. I like to say we were so in the pocket you wouldn't know your change was gone. Um, that's boom, boom. And so our first show, Ingve showed up, I think, almost the same day, the same week that I did a year. I was February 4th, 82. Ingve showed up first week of February 83. I was already in the
Synchronistic.
band.
Yeah.
I was already in the band at this point, as of December 82. So I went from WASP to like one of the cornerstone heavy metal bands of the LA scene. So I was just like, whoop. And March 11th was our first show with Malmsteen and myself. We opened for Hughes Thrall, Glenn Hughes, Pat Thrall,
Hmm.
to a fully packed country club in Reseda. It was a huge venue to play there, and we knocked it out of the park. Everybody was like, like the French Knight when he seen the wooden rabbit coming up the hill in Monty Python, and he's
Yeah.
like that. That's the reaction because this is not your daddy Steeler. Who are these new guys? Where did this come from?
Yeah.
Like
Steeler just
that.
got some more balls. Yeah.
Yeah, and we took the rest of the body with it. And so yeah, then it became the Roxy and this club and that club and the Troubadour and headlining everywhere, and we did just we were brought on to support Quiet Riot at Perkins Palace right when Mental Health went to #1.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that was a night. I mean, it was like
Exposure. Yeah.
talk about packed. I mean, I think the theater illegally held 800 or 900. It was over 1,200 people there. They were doubling, tripling people up on backstage passes, plus
Fire
five, plus
marshals were
six.
not happy. Yeah.
No, well, no. So that was a good marker for us, a good hallmark. And look, we as I said, we did shows with Black and Blue. It was looked like things were really start peaking, and then we went up north to record the album with Mike Varney, like that. And we were forced to do a show up there because Ingve's fans found out we were in proximity to San Francisco. So they made us play at the old Waldorf. We did a show up there, impromptu. And then we came back to LA, and I think our last show with that lineup was at the end of May of 83. And then the day after the show, I guess we were going to have a band meeting, and Ron wasn't there, Ingve wasn't there, and just me and Mark, drummer, Mark Edwards. And he says, Ingve's out of the band. He's already gone. He's joined
Okay.
Alcatraz.
Alcatraz. Yeah.
So essentially, well, in
He didn't
Steeler,
last long there either.
Steeler was the springboard for him to find out where else he can go.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to stay with this band that I don't like. So he wound up joining Alcatraz, and Mark said, "We're just scrapping everything and starting over. So you're not part of the new plan."
Damn.
So I
Well,
was
and
out of.
then like with Ingve, I mean, like I said, he didn't stick around with Alcatraz very long either. And then,
Well,
Vi had to come in and replace him. And that's kind of where Vi kind of really, like, other than Frank Zappa, but that's kind of where he started really getting noticed as well. And it's
yeah,
crazy. Like, it's like, I'm going to have to bring this in for a bit of a landing. And dude, I want to do a part two on this. Like, this is one of the first episodes where I'm actually not talking as much as because I'm intrigued. I'm loving this conversation. It's fucking rock and roll history and it's awesome. So like you said, like back to the Forrest Gump thing, like it's crazy to me how many of these elbows you bumped with Kiss members pre and before, like when they were in Kiss, before, like you're talking Black and Blue, you got Tommy Thayer, so you're bumping elbows with Tommy Thayer, who ends up being the replacement to Ace.
right.
You're talking about Eric, you're talking about Peter, his sister. Like it's just crazy. It's like people don't realize the music scene used to be, well, let's just say, a lot of fucking fun. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
it
a lot
was.
more
It was.
fun than it is nowadays. Like it
Oh
seems
yeah,
like nowadays, like trying to make a living off music and trying to pull a good crowd, and whether it's the economy or politics or whatever bullshit you want to call it, or clubs closing, it's like, I'm a musician, I still
yeah,
play, but
yeah,
it's still like I can understand. I wasn't there then, but I know it's not the same as it was then.
yeah,
Back then it was
yeah.
electric.
Well, I'm told that there's a demographic that's rising slowly of kids, the TikTok crowd, who
Mm-hmm.
missed the '80s and they want to experience that. So there are some fans out there that would like to see some kind of resurgence of the '80s, but all of us are getting older,
Mm-hmm.
like that. So it's who knows how much longer the majority of us we're dropping like flies. Knock on wood, I'm still going to be here until I finish my mission. But um, like last August, I was invited by Stephen Piercy to the Retromania live '80s concert that
Yeah.
they had there,
You
which is
met
where I
my
met you,
my drummer Tom Green.
Tom. I
That's
met
yeah.
Tom. Yeah, Tom was the stage manager there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, because I saw that they were passing through Missouri, and I said, "Hey, I'm about 2 hours or so, give or take, from Branson. Can I come hang out?" Of course, anything out of LA is much easier to
Mm-hmm.
to, to go hang out than
Yeah.
LA. Everybody expects a pass. So he says, "Yeah, sure, we'll fix you up, no problem." And then he calls me back. He goes, "You want to jam?" I said, "What do you mean, like on stage?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Learn. You think you're tough." Seriously. Okay. So I started woodshedding. I was watching their cues on YouTube, the,
Mm-hmm.
the live version of You Think You Tough, where all the cues are. And I learned this song and I drove down there and I met Blas Elias for the first time. And there's a connection to Dana Strum with
He seems
Slaughter.
like a great human being. Boss.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he is. He is. He's an awesome guy, a great drummer. And he was still learning the song in his headphones because Matt Thor said the last time we did it, we had a couple of hiccups. We kind of forgot how it went. So I hadn't seen Matt since the Rough Cut days,
Uh-huh.
because he was in Rough Cut like that. And so I met the band and Steven and all that. And so Steve says, "Come on after Way Cool Jr." So I'm in the dressing room. I'm waiting. I went to hear Way Cool Jr. come on, and I come out, and she goes, Stevens finishes, and from Hollywood, from the Sunset Strip days, one of our Concrete Pirate brothers, and Rik Fox from WASP and Steeler brings me out, and it's like, I haven't been on stage that size since I can remember.
Yeah.
And we launched it, and we didn't get to do it at sound check, so there was no feeling each other out. It was just, you're on, cold,
Yeah.
go.
Like
And we went
rolling
through it.
sound check. Just
We
jump
went
into it.
through
Yeah.
it. I had contact with Blast and stuff like that, and Johnny and Eric and like that. And Steve's coming over. We're rocking together like this, and it's on YouTube. Steven's wife, Christy, shot the video of it, which is a great feather in my cap, like
Nice.
that, and it was awesome. And so there's that. And the new Steeler video came out right after we recorded, right, went to filmed it right after that, or it was before that in Burbank. We flew to LA, stayed at the Chateau Marmont Hotel. We did pictures imitating what Led Zeppelin did when they were there. We did this, filmed a lot of the Steeler documentary. I mean, I'm really jumping ahead here in between,
Yeah.
but so we did the Steeler video, and then I played with Stephen Piercy, And so now I've got some new, fresh stuff up, on social media like that, and everybody's loving the new Steelers song, "Give Me Guitars or Give Me Death," which Mitch Perry came in and played guitar with that. So Mitch is a new guitar player in Steeler like that,
Nice.
and it's fantastic to be with the guys again doing that, and it kind of almost brings us up to date, with cutting out a lot of what you want to cover another time perhaps.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to encapsulate all of this.
No, you're
There
fine.
really,
You're fine.
there
But
really
it's
isn't
cool. It
that.
all comes full circle, it seems like.
Yeah, there's not that much 80s type rock here in Missouri.
Hmm.
I reached out to the singer from an 80s tribute band in Springfield called Machine Gun Symphony. And I saw the name on Facebook. I said, that sounds like an LA name. And I looked them up, and the singer, Jay Stevens, he's like the afternoon prime drive time DJ on 1047 The Cave. It's a classic rock station in Springfield. He's the rock star of the area like
Nice.
that. And I reached out to him and I said, I'm new here. My wife just passed away. I don't know anybody. Can I come maybe hang out with you guys? And he looked me up. He goes, dude, definitely, definitely. And I come down and he's like, you played with Momstein and you perform with Dio and he's like, he looked up a lot of my background.
Hmm.
So he has now been introducing me to his circle of friends. And I'm now friends with a lot of the Springfield musicians. And whenever Machine Gun Symphony plays, they invite me up for a song or two, and
That's cool.
we'll play some stuff there like that. And then
How much longer can it be?
what's that?
How much longer are you gonna be?
Not too long.
Okay, because I've got an agent coming with a couple people in about 15 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. My realtor
That's
showing
awesome.
show at my house today. So
Yeah, you're fine. Like I said, I got to bring this in
okay.
for a landing anyways. I
Okay.
got to take my kiddos to the swimming pool. They've been driving me nuts all day. But
Okay.
but dude, this is
Drop
awesome. Like I
dropping off
love.
some kids at the pool. We know.
Yeah, right. Drop some kids off at the pool, right?
Well, as I'm selling my house here in where I live, because it's a quiet little Mayberry kind of town,
Hmm.
there's nothing for me in this town that I need to keep the soul moving and alive.
Hmm.
So I'm moving. The plan is to move closer to Springfield and be closer to the network of the players like that. And Jay just had a birthday all-star jam at the Southbound Club in Springfield. And I get to, rub shoulders and jam with a lot of all of the other players. So now I'm getting integrated in the Springfield music scene
Yeah.
like that. And so I'm grateful to Jay for that. And when he showed up at Retromania, with his girlfriend Jordan, I said, "Hey, want to come backstage? I'll introduce you to everybody." He goes, "All right." He brings me backstage. Everybody knows him. He's the rock star. I mean, he's played Branson. Everybody knows Jay Stevens from the station and Machine Gun Symphony, and he wound up introducing me to everybody, which
That's
is
cool.
how I met Frank, formally introduced me to Tom Green
Mhm.
like that, and I became friends with the whole production staff backstage. So subsequently, they all sent me Facebook friend requests, which
And
is
now you
which
got a
is a
new
nice.
network.
That's a nice little perk there as well. So again, I'm becoming a little bit trying to be a little more integrated into the Springfield, Missouri music scene. And Jay and I are talking about putting a side project together
Nice.
like that. So we'll we're looking at guitar players and drummers and stuff like that. So hopefully we can be able to put our own project together in addition to Machine Gun Symphony.
That'd be cool. I look
Oh
forward to hearing about that. Dude,
yeah,
yeah. Like remind everybody. So you said you're working with Steeler again, where they can find the new songs or anything else. I'll put everything in the show notes on Spotify
yeah,
as well when I put this episode up, probably tomorrow. But
bonus. Yeah.
yeah, just remind everybody where they can find everything.
Yeah, I'm mostly on Facebook. My wife was on Instagram and she wasn't on TikTok, but she was on all these other platforms. I'm like, how do you have time?
Yeah,
Plus, take care of the horses because
yeah.
she was a horse trainer like that. And so I'm like, how do you have time for all of this stuff and her business and all this other stuff, the network marketing things that she was doing? So I'm not on Instagram yet. I suppose I should be because that kind of works together with Facebook.
With Facebook. So when you post on one, it actually double posts to both.
Right.
That's what I do. So yeah.
Yeah. So I gotta eventually get onto that platform. I keep saying that. I don't know when I'm going to do it. I'm a technical dinosaur. My wife
Yeah.
was also an IT tech. She knew how to make the doors open easy for me. Anything tech related like that. I mean, she had college credits from your neck to the floor.
Nice.
So she knew how to address anything I needed tech wise. She's not here, so I'm like, all right, now what do I do? I don't know how to do this.
You're figuring it out. Yeah.
It's like hit and miss. I got to go back. I didn't want to go there.
Hmm.
Hit the back button. So like that. And like I said, it's I'm trying to, it was a new life. We moved to Missouri to start a new life. We got the hell out of California, and luckily we did. And so when she passed, now it's like I feel like I'm marooned on another planet in another solar system, and there's no rescue ship coming. I don't kind of like what do I do now, Lord? What do I do? I'm in Missouri. What do I do?
Yeah,
So
but man, California ain't the California it used to be. So it's
and it never will be.
no. So
The
I
world
mean, you
is
made the better choice, even though I
yeah.
understand what you're saying now. Like that was you guys' plan, and I'm sorry to hear of your wife. It was Tamara, right? Is that
Thank you.
her name?
Tamara. Yeah.
Tamara. Okay, yeah. But yeah, sorry to hear of her passing and everything. But yeah, it's like I understand what you're saying. It's like now that you're here, that was kind of our plan. And then now I'm like, well, now what do I do? But like I said, it could be worse. It could still be
Yeah.
California,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
We still got to cover all the UFO stuff next time.
I know that's what I'm saying. I bring everybody back on
I got some
multiple
stories, some
times.
UFOs. I
So
got some UFO stuff. I
let's
haven't
get
had a
into some
chance to talk
UFOs
to.
next time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I said, I've seen some things.
All right, let's do it, dude.
I've seen things that you
The way
people
I
wouldn't
look at like
believe.
UFOs and stuff is I think NASA is kind of like, okay, if the government lies to us every day, why would another government entity not lie to us as well? And
Yeah.
also money launder like a lot of things do. But that also doesn't mean that shit's not happening. It's just
Yeah.
meaning what you're told is probably half bullshit most
like
times.
like Rutger Hauer and he's I've seen things you
Mm-hmm.
people wouldn't believe.
Exactly.
Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I've seen some stuff, man. But, I ran with that crowd for a while, the UFO type crowd,
Yeah.
and so you know, uh, I'm gonna have to get back to that one.
Yeah, dude, I know you're gonna have to get off here and I gotta go too. But dude, I could talk to you all day. Let's do this again sometime really soon. Let's do a part two within the next
Definitely,
I'm going on vacation in like 2 weeks and I've got kind of like a pretty stacked schedule in the next couple weeks on episodes. But let's shoot for like a month from now. We'll do a part two and we'll get into the UFO
definitely.
shit.
Yeah, well, load this one up and put it put the round in the chamber and send this one down range, and we'll
Oh
come back
yeah.
for part two.
I'm down for it, man. Everybody's always
Definitely.
welcome back to talk some Stitt, man. So
We're looking forward to talking some Stitt.
well, Rik, this has been a freaking honor, dude. This is awesome. Like cool stories. I love having the rock and roll stories. Next time we're talking some aliens and some weird shit. But dude, hope you have a blessed day. Good luck with everything going on with your house situation and everything and moving. And yeah, let's do it again soon, man.
Thanks for having me on, man. We got to make sure that Stitt happens.
I know, right? And
Yeah.
Stitt-Heads out there listening. Don't
Yeah.
forget, we're out here putting the ass in classy. So I'll see you next time, bitches. Peace out.